When supply chains freeze and delivery trucks stop running, the first products stripped from store shelves are not what Hollywood taught you to expect. It is not camouflage gear, gold coins, or vacuum-sealed emergency rations. The real items that evaporate overnight are the unremarkable household staples already sitting inside your kitchen cabinets, bathroom closets, and laundry rooms across the country. The average American grocery store holds a shockingly thin reserve of inventory, roughly 3 to 5 days of normal demand. Once panic buying ignites, those shelves turn bare in a single afternoon. This breakdown covers 15 ordinary household necessities that vanish first, the overlooked reasons they become priceless when systems buckle, and the precise storage methods that keep them effective for years. Begin with liquid bleach because no other chemical compound inside a typical home matches its raw utility. Standard unscented household bleach contains between 5 and 9% sodium hypochlorite, and both the Environmental Protection Agency and the Centers for Disease Control recognize it as a legitimate emergency drinking water disinfectant. Think about that for a moment. The same bottle you use to whiten laundry can save your life when the taps are unquestionable. The CDC recommended ratio is 8 drops of 6% bleach per gallon of clear water, and double that amount for water that appears cloudy, cold, or murky. Stir thoroughly, wait half an hour, and confirm a faint chlorine odor before consuming a single sip. Beyond water purification, bleach sanitizes kitchen surfaces, eliminates mold after basement flooding, disinfects medical tools during a crisis, and treats clothing saturated by sewage or contaminated floodwater. The hidden flaw most households overlook is that bleach possesses a functional shelf life of merely 6 months to 1 year. Once that window closes, the chlorine concentration degrades silently, and your carefully calculated purification ratios become worthless guesswork. The permanent solution is calcium hypochlorite in granular form. This stable compound stores for roughly a decade and reconstitutes into liquid chlorine solution whenever the need arises. One modest container replaces an entire rotation of bleach jugs. White vinegar claims the second spot, and calling it merely underrated does not do it justice. Distilled white vinegar maintains an effectively limitless shelf life when stored properly, meaning sealed tight, positioned away from direct sunlight, and kept at moderate indoor temperatures. The acidic acid inside tackles an absurd range of tasks, including deep cleaning, odor neutralization, food preservation, fabric softening, dissolving hard water buildup, killing unwanted vegetation, and breaking down rust. It substitutes for buttermilk in baking recipes, tenderizes tough cuts of meat before cooking, and revives limp, wilted vegetables when you soak them in a mixture of vinegar and cold water. During a prolonged grid-down scenario where refrigeration no longer exists, vinegar becomes indispensable for pickling and preserving fresh harvests. Can you imagine trying to save a garden's yield without it? The non-negotiable safety boundary is that vinegar must never contact bleach. Their combination releases chlorine gas, the exact same compound deployed as a chemical weapon during the First World War. Keep these two fluids in completely separate parts of your dwelling, ideally with no shared cabinet space whatsoever. Baking soda arrives as the third item, and according to published research by the Provident Prepper and extensive food storage literature, there exists no practical homemade replacement for sodium bicarbonate. It belongs to a rare class of fundamental chemicals that average people simply cannot manufacture on their own. The survival applications read like an encyclopedia entry. Baking soda performs as a leavening agent for flatbreads, a gentle tooth cleaning powder, a universal deodorizer, an effective fire suppressant for grease and electrical blazes, an antiseptic wound wash when dissolved in sterile water, a corrosive cleaner for battery terminals, and a foundational ingredient in DIY laundry soap. Paired with vinegar, it blasts through clogged drains and eliminates stubborn weeds. Its shelf stability defies most other pantry items. Stored inside an airtight container shielded from humidity, it remains functionally potent forever. Test activity by dropping a splash of vinegar onto a spoonful. If the reaction froths vigorously, it retains full power. Purchase it in bulk bags by weight, never those tiny cardboard boxes that vanish after 2 baking projects. Toilet paper earns the 4th position for reasons stretching far beyond pandemic-era punchlines. The great toilet paper shortage of 2020 did not stem from production failure. It erupted because consumer demand violently shifted from commercial rolls used in office buildings and educational institutions toward residential rolls consumed at home. The residential supply infrastructure could not absorb that instantaneous spike, and store shelves emptied within 72 hours. The identical mechanism activates during any extended emergency, and unlike water or food, no improvised alternative exists that does not quickly devolve into a serious sanitation hazard. What happens when your household exhausts the last roll and every store within driving distance remains shuttered? A 6-month buffer per individual stored in a dry, protected area occupies far less square footage than anyone imagines, and accumulating it during discount sales costs mere pocket change. Salt takes the 5th slot, and its value extends leagues beyond basic seasoning. Pure sodium chloride contains zero organic material for microbial life to consume, which explains why the Food and Drug Administration and the Department of Agriculture classify it as a food possessing no expiration date under proper storage. Iodized table salt retains its iodine content for approximately 5 years, though plain untreated salt persists indefinitely. Beyond flavoring meals, salt cures meat for long-term preservation without refrigeration, preserves fish and garden vegetables, creates brine solutions for pickling, treats sore throats when dissolved in warm water, and functions as a mild abrasive cleaning agent. In freezing climates, it melts ice on walkways and prevents dangerous slip injuries. A 25-pound sack costs under $15 and replaces what would otherwise demand a freezer dependent on grid electricity. Honey occupies number 6, and this is precisely where countless preparedness inventories fall short by reducing honey to a simple sugar alternative. The Food and Drug Administration, the United States Department of Agriculture, and the National Honey Board all verify that correctly stored honey maintains an indefinite usable life. Archaeologists recovered edible honey from Egyptian burial chambers dating back more than 3 millennia. The preservation chemistry works elegantly. Water content below 18%, natural acidity ranging between pH 3.2 and 4.5, and trace hydrogen peroxide generated by the enzyme glucose oxidase combine to create an environment where bacteria cannot survive. Honey delivers calorie-dense survival nutrition, functions as a natural antibacterial wound dressing recognized in modern medical settings, suppresses stubborn coughs, and fuels sustained physical labor. One critical medical caution must be observed: never administer honey at infants below 12 months of age due to the risk of infant botulism from dormant bacterial spores that an immature digestive system cannot neutralize. Over-the-counter pain relief medications fill the 7th spot, specifically ibuprofen and acetaminophen. A 2022 study published in the Annals of Emergency Medicine discovered that nearly every one of the 30 most commonly prescribed emergency department drugs experienced shortages between 2006 and 2019, with a median shortage length of 425 days. The 2022 children's pain reliever shortage forced desperate parents to split adult tablets at home, producing a measurable surge in poison control center calls. Both ibuprofen and acetaminophen address fever, pain, and inflammation. During any sustained disruption, even minor wounds and infections generate both elevated temperature and significant discomfort. Aspirin also warrants stockpiling for adults because of its blood-thinning properties during suspected cardiac events, though it must never be given to anyone under 18 due to Ray's syndrome risk. Harvard Medical School analysis of pharmaceutical expiration data demonstrates that most solid-form over-the-counter medications retain potency for many years beyond their printed dates when stored in cool, dry conditions inside sealed original packaging. Coffee enters at number 8, and cynical voices frequently dismiss it because caffeine does not directly sustain biological life. That objection completely misses the strategic reality. Caffeine stands among the few legal stimulants that reliably support cognitive alertness during sleep deprivation, which is precisely the condition created by night watch rotations, security patrol duty, or multi-day evacuation movements. Coffee also carries extraordinary barter value during any disruption persisting beyond a few weeks. Whole bean coffee stored sealed in cool, dark environments maintains peak quality for roughly 2 years and remains perfectly drinkable far longer. Vacuum sealed and frozen yields even greater longevity. Instant coffee packaged in glass jars or sealed foil pouches outlasts whole beans, often surviving well past any printed date.
Stockpile both forms because boiling water combined with instant granules works without electricity, while whole beans demand a manual grinding tool. Matches and lighters land at number 9, and this represents the category where people most consistently miscalculate. Cheap disposable lighters and standard strike-anywhere matches get dismissed as too mundane to bother accumulating, which is precisely the psychology causing them to disappear first when panic sets in. Fire constitutes the absolute foundation of cooking, water sterilization, sanitation, and warmth. A single quality disposable lighter delivers approximately 3,000 individual lights at full capacity. Strike-anywhere matches require no specialized striking strip and ignite against any rough surface. The error most enthusiasts commit is purchasing expensive ferrocerium rods and exotic survival lighters while neglecting the boring basics. Do you want the tool that works in 95% of situations instantly, or the backup you fumble with when your fingers are numb? Carry both. The disposable lighter handles the overwhelming majority of fire-starting duties, faster and more reliably than any wilderness survival gadget, and the ferro rod serves as the emergency fallback when the lighter inevitably fails or runs empty. Plastic trash bags occupy the 10th position, particularly heavy-duty contractor-grade bags in the 3 ml thickness classification. Their applications extend radically beyond waste disposal. They transform into emergency rain ponchos, ground tarps, rainfall collection systems strung from gutters, body containment bags in the aftermath of hurricanes, sanitation liners for bucket toilets, and short-term shelter windbreaks. Both FEMA and the CDC recommend lining buckets with a sanitizing chemical mixture for emergency human waste management during extended utility failures. Without trash bags, bucket sanitation breaks down within 24 hours. A roll of 50 contractor bags costs under $25 and stores for decades without degradation. Duct tape claims the 11th slot because it solves structural problems most people never anticipate until disaster is already upon them. Duct tape patches torn tarps, seals shattered windows following violent storms, splints broken digits, secures field dressings against wounds, temporarily repairs leaking pipe joints, marks evacuation routes with high visibility, and fixes compromised footwear. The crucial distinction is that not all duct tape delivers equal performance. Standard hardware store varieties measure roughly 7 mils thick and carry general duty ratings. Gorilla Brand and 3M professional grade alternatives run between 10 and 17 mils and hold significantly longer under extreme stress. Purchase the thicker version because the cheap rolls will betray you at the exact moment your life depends on the repair. Aluminum foil enters at number 12, and most inventories overlook this item entirely. Heavy-duty aluminum foil operates as a cooking surface directly over open flame, a reflector for heat or radio signal direction, a windscreen shielding camp stoves, an emergency patch for torn tarps, and a preservation wrap when sealed tightly around food items. It also functions as a rudimentary Faraday enclosure when you wrap multiple layers around compact electronics. Effective Faraday protection demands complete conductive coverage and proper grounding to function correctly. For low-cost electromagnetic pulse insurance protecting a portable radio or backup communication device, multiple layers of heavy foil placed inside a metal container deliver measurable shielding. Store rolls flat to prevent creasing because creases compromise the conductive seal envelope. Plain cotton string, twine, and paracord claim the 13th position. Most homes possess a single spool of kitchen twine, and that pathetic quantity is nowhere near adequate. Cordage handles shelter construction, improvised fishing line, small game snares, torn garment repairs, genuine tourniquets when trauma demands immediate bleeding control, fire bow drill operations, and clothesline drying when your electric dryer sits dead and useless. Military spec paracord, rated at 550 pounds, contains 7 internal strands that separate out for finer tasks, including sewing thread and emergency dental floss. A 100-foot hank costs less than $10, and 3 of them weigh under 2 pounds total. Any household serious about preparation stocks a minimum of 300 feet of rated paracord, plus a full pound of standard cotton twine. Rubbing alcohol takes the 14th slot, specifically isopropyl alcohol at 70% or 91% concentrations.
Counterintuitively, the 70% version actually disinfects more effectively than the higher concentration because the additional water content permits deeper penetration into bacterial cell walls before the alcohol evaporates.
Rubbing alcohol cleans wounds, sterilizes instruments, removes stubborn adhesive residue, eliminates lice on hard surfaces, and serves as a fuel source for certain camp stoves and homemade alcohol burners. It also cleans sensitive electronics safely when applied with restraint. Sealed isopropyl alcohol stored in its original container maintains full potency for approximately 2 to 3 years and persists longer when kept cool and protected from light exposure. Feminine hygiene products close the list at number 15, and this is the category most preparedness checklists tragically undervalue. Tampons and sanitary pads arrive sterile, individually wrapped, extraordinarily absorbent, and engineered for safe bodily contact. In emergency medical situations, they serve as exceptional improvised wound dressings. Military medics have utilized them for this exact purpose since the global conflicts of the 20th century. These products also vanish from retail shelves instantaneously during any disruption affecting half the population. A 6-month supply for every household member who requires them constitutes a non-negotiable line item. An additional reserve for trade or unexpected guests represents sensible insurance against chaos. The pattern woven through all 15 items is unmistakable. None are exotic, none require specialty retailers, and none demand background checks or special licenses to acquire. Every single one already exists inside ordinary homes, usually in quantities far too small to matter when supply chains seize. The remedy is not manic panic buying. The remedy is purchasing one additional unit of each item during every routine grocery trip until you have accumulated a 6-month buffer, then cycling through stored stock as you consume it in daily life. That single disciplined habit places a household comfortably ahead of roughly 95% of the surrounding population during any disruption lasting longer than 1 week. The defining question reduces to this: if every store within 20 miles of your front door permanently closed tomorrow at sunrise, how many days could your family continue living normally before any single one of these 15 items ran completely dry? If the honest answer registers below 30 days, the preparation work begins now, not later. If this breakdown delivered a checklist worth keeping, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more practical readiness information built entirely on verified data, never on sensational exaggeration. The upcoming video exposes the 5 critical storage blunders that silently destroy your entire stockpile long before you ever get the chance to use it.